Hello, Michelle. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Michelle, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Michelle, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, Michelle, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You
Mm.
see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Michelle, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Michelle, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Michelle. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such
Mm.
a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. Here's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Michelle that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to say nope to you and get into it a little bit about you, the beautiful stuff that you're doing. I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophy, your journey, your work, these stuffs are beautiful. So I've got to say thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Mm. Oh, thank you. Happy to be here.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Michelle, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Michelle, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Michelle on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Michelle, that our conversation is gonna be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Michelle got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Michelle, over to you.
Okay, so do you want me to explain my story? That is why I'm
Yeah,
here today. Is that what you
yeah,
mean?
let's just begin first with your personal or professional journey. I know which one.
Okay, well they go together. So, um, okay, we have to go way back, but I know we don't have a super long time, so I'll try to do the short version. So we have to go all the way back to high school, where I met Luke, my first husband. We ended up dating a little bit after, like 4 years after high school, got married within a year, and he had a lump in his ankle. And he went to the doctors and they told him in the beginning, like, oh, it's you're young, it's nothing. He was like 25 at the time. and it kept getting worse, and eventually had a biopsy, and they said it was a very rare bone cancer, usually found in children. So they didn't know how to treat it, and so he started doing chemo, and the chemotherapy did not work either. And so then he had to have his leg amputated 2 inches below his right knee. So that completely changed our lives. I mean, we had just gotten married. Oh, also forgot to say, and then we got pregnant a few months after we got married, and then the cancer diagnosis, and then his amputation. So it was a complete life change in a few months. And it was really hard going through that, being young and just not understanding why is this happening and all these things. So long story short, his leg was amputated, and that's what we considered his cancer-free day for many years because there was cancer nowhere else. So we went on to have two more kids. We had three kids in 3.5 years. So it was kind of a crazy time. Luke was not able to go back to work. He was in pain all the time, and the chemotherapy had kind of really hurt his immune system. So he got sick all the time. So he was sick constantly. And so I was working full time as a teacher, and we had our kids, and it was a busy, crazy life. Fast forward 13 years later, he went to have another scan, and they found some tumors in his lungs. And it was the same cancer, it was bone cancer, but in his lungs. So this time, we had kids going through this. They were 9, 11, and 13, and we sat down with them and had to explain it. They knew all about their dad's cancer. We'd shared everything. I had written a book that the older two had already read, all about his cancer journey the first time. But this time it was much harder having three kids to take through it. And we were very positive, we're going to do everything we can. He did not want to do chemotherapy, but there really were not a lot of other options. And so we started, he did it. And it was really hard watching him get sick, with my kids watching him get sick and lose his hair, and just all the things that happen with cancer and sickness. And he fought it about 2.5 years. And during that time, we just really did everything we could. We went to Disneyland as a family. We went to like sporting events as a family, just everything we could to just really enjoy the moment. And then it was 2020 and the world shut down because of COVID, which for our family ended up being a blessing in that we got more time together. The kids were home from school. And so we spent every moment with Luke. Every night we would make popcorn and watch movies and just had this sweet time that I can look back on and be like, that was a beautiful time. But he just kept getting worse and worse. And, eventually it was like, there's nothing else we can do. And so he was put on hospice. And I would pray with my kids every single night for healing, but I let them know it could be here on earth, but it could be in heaven. We wanted it here on earth, but they knew that his healing could come in heaven. Um, May 22nd of 2020, we had this beautiful day together, and just like some special memories. And then May 23rd, I woke up with the light being turned on, and he was like in a lot of pain. His calf was hurting, and the hospice nurse had just said, get prepared. It's going to be a month to 6 weeks before he dies. I just told my kids that. But he ended up not being able to breathe very well. I called hospice and they're like, it's time. And I'm like, what? I thought we had longer. He ended up dying from a blood clot. But we
So
see
sorry.
the good in it too. He was fully functional. He was scared of the end of life, of us feeding him, changing him, all the stuff he didn't want us to do. So there's some beautiful parts to this. So I woke up my kids. This is not the beautiful part yet, but I'll never forget. My daughter was 14, and I say it's time to say goodnight to goodbye to daddy. And she's like, no, it's not time. And we all gathered. My kids were 12, 14, and 15 at the time. And God gave me, only way I can say it is, God gave me a supernatural peace, like nothing I've ever experienced before, where I was able to walk them through that. I was not crying. I called his parents, my parents, everybody got there. And we had like a good hour of just talking to him. And I was saying things to him like, you're going to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. You're going to meet my grandparents today. Like, God just gave me the strength to walk my kids through this and to be calm for Luke. That was my husband's name. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful time together. My daughter sang You Are My Sunshine, which was like their special song. And then I turned on the song I Can Only Imagine, which is all about heaven. And that's actually when he took his last breath. And his eyes were just looking up in the corner. And we were saying things like, are you seeing angels? What are you seeing? Now, later, this is, some people think it's crazy, but I believe it's a gift God gave me. 2 months later, I was at a grief retreat and God gave me a vision, and I actually got to experience Luke's death as him. And I heard his thoughts. I felt the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And I heard his thoughts, which were like, I'm not in pain, because he was always in pain, and I'm okay to leave my family. And then in the corner was Jesus waiting to take him to heaven. And in this vision, I heard the song I Can Only Imagine, and I, as Luke, followed Jesus to the light, and that's where it ended. And it was like the most incredible peace. I believe God gave that story not only for me, but I share it to other people who wonder what their loved ones were experiencing. I was at a grief retreat and I shared with everyone, and everyone's crying because they didn't get to feel that with their person. And that whole time for like 2 months, I was wondering, what was he thinking? What was happening in his head? And it was like God gave me a glimpse into it. So, anyways, that was a beautiful moment. After my kids said goodbye to them, that's when I really lost it. They left the room. It was just my mom and myself and Luke's body. And that's when I lost it. And just, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And then I was left a widow at age 41 with 3 teenage kids. And I had nobody who understood it. Like great friends, great family, great church. Nobody knew what it was like to lose a spouse. And that's kind of what fueled my passion to start a ministry for widows. As I began to receive healing from God, that's the only way. I'd cry out on the floor. He would cover me with the peace that passes all understanding. He just started meeting me where I was and healing my heart. I was like, I want to help other people. He's helping me through this. I don't want to, like, no pain is wasted. If I had to go through this, I'm going to start helping other people. And so, one of the very first things I did, I met a friend on Facebook who was also widowed, and the two of us, we were both believers, and we just saw that so many people were turning to the wrong things. And so he and I, as a widower, so he lost his wife, we decided to start a podcast for widows, a Christian podcast called Widowed Too Soon. And it's now been going 4 years. And we started that because we're like, these people need Jesus. And so we just started talking about everything in life. Like he was a widower with young kids. I'm a widow with teenagers. Just talk through life. And that's been amazing to reach widows all over the world. And so I started that. And then I was like, I wish there was a group for widows. I went to all the churches in my area. I couldn't find anything, which is odd because widows are mentioned 103 times in the Bible, yet so few churches have a ministry. So I started a nonprofit called Widow Goals, which is widows helping widows not only survive, but thrive. And so we have groups that meet in 30 cities across the US and Canada. And we also have retreats. We have 72 women signed up to go to a retreat in Dallas, Texas in January. It's our third retreat. And it's, a Christian faith-based retreat. We have worship, we have speakers, we have prayer, we have, communion. We just have awesome, amazing time. I also started a TikTok channel for widows way early in my journey and found there were thousands of widows on TikTok that wanted to connect and learn. And I just started speaking what God had shown me. And one of the biggest messages, and I love sharing this with all audiences, whether you've lost your spouse or not, same grief retreat. I had this vision. God gave me so many visions during this retreat. And it was Jesus placing a crown upon my head and saying, I am so proud of you. And of all the people in the world, I chose you to be Luke's wife. And suddenly everything in my head shifted. Before that time, I was like, am I being punished? Is that why my husband died? And in an instant, everything switched to, I'm chosen. And so that's something I love telling widows is like, no, you were not punished. You were chosen. And I believe that about everyone. You are chosen to be in everyone's life that you're in right now, and that's a gift. And so even if it's like a relationship that's hard or whatever, just realize that God chose you for that. And so that's one of my biggest message. And so as God continued to show me things, I continue to build my ministry. And I wrote a book, Widow Goals, Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. And it's basically like 30 goals that can be taken anytime in any order, like get out of bed, have an eternal perspective, re-enter social spaces, solo parenting, just so many things that affect widows and widowers. And I decided to then create a workbook. And then what I found out is groups were meeting all over the country using my workbook and my workbook. And so I decided to make a leader's guide so that anyone, anywhere, even not widowed, could lead widows in this group. And my passion right now is getting this program into churches worldwide. It's an 11-week program that walks people through all these things about grief and relying on Jesus and all the things. And I just always say, whenever I'm on a podcast, I just challenge all listeners to ask their pastor or someone in leadership, how do we support widows? That's it. Like, just ask that. Make sure you have something. I have a program, but find any program. Make sure your widows are being supported, because a lot of widows leave the church because they feel so alone in this. So, anyways, I know we don't have much time, so I'm trying to wrap it up with what I do. So, these are some of the things that I do. And, I just basically feel like God turned my mourning into dancing and made beauty from my ashes. And so I want to help other people do the same thing. So that's why I do what I do with my widow ministry.
And I tell you, it's so amazing. I tell you. And your story is very important and also very inspiring. Sorry about your husband and, you know, the fact that God is using your story to help others. That's really powerful. And that part where you mentioned that you experienced supernatural peace and you said it's only Jesus that can ever give that. That's so true. And I
Yes.
love the fact that you wrote a book, the wonderful book that you wrote. So you've answered almost all of my questions except from two.
Okay.
So, yeah. So let us talk about mm, what is the first step a person can take to move from surviving to
Mm.
thriving?
Yeah, that's really good. Well, in the beginning, it's just living moment to moment because you're so overwhelmed with all the, funeral plans, all the things. But for me, it was definitely like on my face crying before Jesus, just like, help me. Like, that was really the first step. And then realizing that we have to pour into our healing. Like, we can't just expect grief. We're going to move through grief and everything's going to be great. I tell people that are in deep grief, like, you need to act like healing is your job. Because for about the first year, that is your job. And what does that look like? That for me was finding a grief retreat, grief counseling, regular counseling, every grief book I could find, because it's like this. Some people think, well, I'll be better in a year or 2 years. It's like if I had a flat tire in my car and I was like, I'll be back in a year, it'll be better. It's not going to be better unless I take the steps. And so I think it's kind of making a plan for what am I going to do, but act like healing is your job, and you'll be able to start finding the resources, asking God to put those people in your life, like search for things. I've had so many people who said my podcast like really helped them. They were searching and they found it. Keep looking, and God will bring you the resources for your healing. So I think that would be the first step.
I got that, and that's a beautiful one. Okay, so what do you want folks to take away from your wonderful book? And how long was the writing process?
Oh, yeah. So I'll do the second question first. So I actually started it 6 months after Luke died. I was in this contest, but I only wrote 3 chapters, and I'm so happy I did, because I was what I call baby widow. I didn't know much about grief. So fast forward to January of 25, I realized it was about to be, in a few months, the 5-year anniversary of Luke's death. And I really wanted to do this in honor of Luke. So in about 4 months, I wrote the other 27 chapters, and it was released May 23rd, 2025. And so really 4 months is, when I really was like, I'm doing this. And it was such a beautiful day to be able to do that day to honor him. My book really is about knowing you're not alone and just having the steps. It's not all at once, it's steps to finding peace. And so each chapter, is a different goal. And then the biggest thing that I like to say is to feel it. So what we feel, God can heal. If we don't feel it, God's not able to do the full work he wants to do, because, we have free will. We've got to be part of this. And so I encourage people, don't stuff the tears. I don't care if you're walking down the street, you're in a crowd, wherever. If you need to cry, cry, because our healing is more important than what anybody thinks about us. And so I really encourage people to feel it. And people have told me that what the book does for them is gives them, action steps, because each chapter has action steps and it has questions,
Mm,
and it helps them to know, like, okay, these are steps that I need to do in order to move forward.
that's so beautiful, and that's a smart way. I love the concept and how you wrote it. That's a beautiful one. So to bring this to an end, Michelle, yeah, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those individuals who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions, or be a part of your wonderful ministry, how can that be possible?
Okay, so first of all, to all listeners, whatever you're going through, and every person has gone through grief because grief is the loss or change of any pattern in your life. So every listener has gone through grief, whether it's death or something else. I want you to know that you are not alone and you will get through this. That's all I wanted to know in the very beginning. God will help you through this. He will put the people in your path. If you do the work, you're going to get through this. So that's the first thing. If you're interested in the podcast, it's Widowed Too Soon on any podcast platform. The book is on Amazon called Widow Goals, or everything we talked about today can be found at widowgoals.org. If your church is interested in the program, it's widowgoals.org/support program. And it has a video that your pastors can watch, explains the 11-week program, how they can get a discount on the books. Yeah, and they can email me, Michelle at widowgoals.org, if they have any questions about grief or just want someone to listen who's been through it.
Beautiful, and I got that. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Michelle. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was a beautiful.